Welcome back to the garage. It's time for another episode of Token Teardown, Dyno Test Certified. Just in case you're new here, this is where we pull your favorite crypto project straight into the bay, throw it up on the lift, and find out whether it's a Kia Stinger GT, an undercover sleeper that does 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, or just another Kia with a glass pack welded on, trying to act the part. And before we get rolling, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like, hit the follow, and share this with your fellow degens, or that buddy from work who's always talking about XRP going to $1,000 a coin, but only owns about 97 of them in his Coinbase account. And whatever you do, don't let that guy start explaining market caps. We are building this channel one crypto bro at a time, and your support keeps the lights on in the garage. Now, today's teardown is a viewer request. One of you in the comments said, Guru, put EWT on the lift and tell us if this thing has real torque or if it's all brochure horsepower. You ask, we wrench. And if you have a project you want us to tear down next, drop it in the comments. We read every single one. Big shout out to XXX, the research assassin in the back of the garage. This man has been buried in research papers, GitHub commits, white papers, community threads, and tokenomics spreadsheets. He's done everything short of climbing a wind turbine to make this teardown airtight. XXX, we appreciate you. And yes, we will definitely talk price predictions later. We know that is everyone's favorite lane. But before we hit that gas, we need to answer the only question that actually matters. Does EWT deserve a spot in your wallet, or are we about to save you from parking a lemon in your portfolio? All right, viewer requested, XXX approved. Let's get EWT on the lift and see what this thing is really running. Before we crank this engine and start talking tech, we need to look at the team that built Energy Web. Because this isn't some meme token welded together by two anons in a Telegram chat. This is a fully doxed enterprise-grade crew with real-world resumes and responsibilities. They're not here to chase pumps. They're here to build infrastructure. Energy Web was originally founded in 2017 by two serious players in the clean energy world. Rocky Mountain Institute, one of the most respected energy and sustainability think tanks on the planet, and Grid Singularity, early pioneers in combining blockchain with energy systems before that was even a talking point in crypto. The early project lead, Hervé Tuati, helped architect and launch the Energy Web chain in 2019. He handed the project off cleanly once the foundation was up and running. No drama, no mystery, no disappearing founders. After that, the keys went to people who actually know how to operate at scale. First up was Walter Koch, who previously held leadership roles at ING and Vodafone. If you've ever had a financial system or a telecom network that didn't collapse under pressure, you understand the level of operational discipline this guy comes from. Today, the CEO is Jesse Morris, another heavyweight from Rocky Mountain Institute. He has years of experience working across clean energy, climate policy, and utility operations. His entire job is taking Energy Web from cool concept to industry standard. On the technical side, the engine builder is Mika Roon, the CTO. Before Energy Web, he was the CTO of Share and Charge, working on smart contracts for electric vehicles before the rest of the world caught on. Mika's role is to make sure the chain stays up, scales properly, and integrates with real utility systems without blowing a gasket. Now let's talk sponsors and partners, because this pit lane is stacked. Energy Web didn't get backed by hype funds or anonymous whales. Their network includes global energy giants like Shell, Total, Engie, E.ON, Centrica, EDF, GE, and Equinor. These are companies that deal with real infrastructure, real grids, and real consequences when things go wrong. They don't put their name on flimsy projects. Even on the crypto venture side, the backers are serious. Blockchain capital and other experienced energy tech investors who don't touch nonsense. And on top of all that, the project is based in Zug, Switzerland, operating as a regulated foundation with open governance and transparent control structures. This isn't one of those our headquarters is everywhere and nowhere situations. The paperwork is clean. So when we talk about the pit crew behind EWT, we're talking about a team of professionals, not weekend mechanics. Engineers, executives, researchers, and energy veterans who understand that stability matters more than memes. This is a grown-up build. Whether the token performs or not, the people running the shop are legitimate. To understand Energy Web token, You have to understand the real problem it's trying to fix. And unlike a lot of crypto projects that invent a problem to justify a token, Energy Web is aimed at a challenge that already exists in the real world and costs companies billions of dollars every year. The global energy system is a mess of disconnected databases, outdated processes, and trust me paperwork. Utilities, grid operators, renewable energy producers, EV charging networks, corporate buyers, and regulators all operate on separate systems that don't talk cleanly to each other. It's slow, it's inefficient, and more importantly, it makes it extremely hard to verify what is actually happening on the grid. Energy Web's mission is simple and practical. Create a shared, neutral digital layer that lets the energy ecosystem verify data, track renewable generation, authenticate carbon certificates, and coordinate grid resources without relying on middlemen or paperwork. In plain language, the energy world still runs like a row of auto shops that each keep their own handwritten ledger. One book for fuel deliveries, another book for emissions checks, another for parts inventory, another for inspections. Nothing syncs, everybody duplicates effort, and mistakes are inevitable. Energy Web is trying to turn all of that into a single digital service manual, one source of truth that everyone can plug into. With this system, you can prove how much clean energy was actually produced, where it went, who consumed it, whether an EV charge session was matched with renewable power, whether a miner or data center used green electricity, whether a carbon credit or renewable certificate is legitimate. This is not theory. Corporations around the world are already under pressure to prove their energy claims. Regulators want transparency, investors want verification, consumers want accountability, and companies need a system that is trustworthy and auditable without hiring entire teams to chase paperwork. Energy Web's approach solves this by putting all the activity into a tamper-proof shared ledger, not for speculation, but for verification. So when you strip everything down to the frame, EWT exists because the energy grid is becoming more decentralized. Solar panels, batteries, EVs, wind turbines, microgrids, they all generate data, they all need coordination, and they all need a neutral referee to verify the truth. That referee is the Energy Web stack. EWT is the fuel that powers that stack, the fee token that moves data across the system, and the stake that secures the network. Before we talk tech, tokenomics, or adoption, this is the core mission. Bring the global energy system into the digital era and replace slow manual verification with a verifiable, automated, tamper-proof system. That's the build sheet. That's the horsepower under the mission. Now let's talk about the Drivetrain. This is the part of the teardown where we look at the actual machinery under the hood and figure out whether the tech can back up the vision. Energy Web runs on two main systems, and together they form the backbone of the entire project. First, you have the Energy Web chain. This is their original layer 1. It works a lot like Ethereum because it uses the same virtual machine, but it's tuned specifically for energy applications. When they launched it, they used something called proof of authority. That simply means only approved companies can validate transactions. Think of it like letting only certified mechanics touch the engine. It keeps things fast, efficient, and predictable, which is exactly what big utilities and regulators want. Then you have Energy Web X. This is the newer part of the Drivetrain, built as a parachain on Polkadot. If the Energy Web chain is the main engine, Energy Web X is the upgraded gearbox that helps with heavy lifting and more complex work. It uses a staking model, so validators put real skin in the game, and it powers something called verified compute. That allows companies to run calculations off-chain and then prove the results on-chain without anyone needing to trust the raw data. That matters. If a company claims they used a certain amount of renewable energy, or a miner says they ran 90% green, they need a tamper-proof way to verify it. Energy Web X is built for exactly that. The important thing to understand is that these two systems are not competing. They're designed to work together as one drivetrain. One handles the base layer activity. The other handles the specialized computing and broader connectivity. Over time, EWT sits at the center of both. Performance-wise, the system is fast. Blocks finalize quickly. Fees are tiny, and there's plenty of headroom because this isn't a casino chain. The energy sector doesn't generate meme-level transaction spam. It generates steady, predictable data that needs to be verified, logged, and trusted. And for developers or energy companies looking to integrate, it's straightforward. If you can build on Ethereum, you can build here. And if you need cross-chain functions or advanced compute, EnergyWebX is your lane. At the end of the day, the Drivetrain does exactly what it needs to. It provides a reliable, quiet, always-on backbone for energy data. It's built to run every day without drama. Not flashy, not loud. Just dependable. Let's move into the fuel mix, which is really just the tokenomics of EWT. This is where we look at how the token is supplied, how it's used, and whether the economics make sense for long-term value. EWT has a maximum supply of 100 million tokens. That cap is fixed, and the project is already most of the way there. Around 60 million tokens are circulating, and the rest are allocated for long-term operations, grants, and validator rewards. There are no big surprise unlocks hiding in the future. The curve is predictable. Now here's the important part. EWT is not designed as a meme coin or a speculation engine. It's designed as a utility token. It does three things. First, it pays for transactions on both the EnergyWeb chain and EnergyWebX. Anytime an application writes data or verifies something, a small amount of EWT is burned as gas. The fees are tiny, but they add up when the system is used at scale. Second, it's staked by validators and node operators. Staking keeps the network secure because anyone validating blocks has something to lose if they misbehave. It's the same principle as leaving a security deposit when you rent a car. It keeps everyone honest. Third, EWT is used as an incentive in some of EnergyWeb's programs. For example, when a miner proves they used renewable energy or an EV charging station reports green matched power, they might receive EWT as a reward. It's a way of pushing the ecosystem toward clean energy verification. The distribution was fairly straightforward. Early investors and founders received about a third of the supply, and the rest went to community pools, grants, and long-term development funds. Most of those early allocations vested years ago. We're past the heavy unlock era. Inflation is minimal. Right now, only the validator reward pool emits new tokens, and it winds down over time. Once the max supply is reached, emissions basically stop unless governance decides otherwise. So, is the fuel mix healthy? For an infrastructure token, yes. It's capped, predictable, and tied directly to network usage and security. The big unknown is how much of the energy industry will actually plug into this system, and how visible the token will be in that process. Some enterprises prefer to abstract tokens away and pay in fiat. Others embrace on-chain economics directly. That's the real story here. The tokenomics are solid. The question is adoption. Now let's talk about who's actually using this thing. Because a lot of crypto projects look great in the showroom, but the minute you take them out on the highway, the whole front end starts shaking. We need to know whether EWT is a real utility vehicle or just a well-polished concept car. EnergyWeb is different from most of the chains we review because its adoption comes from the enterprise side, not the retail side. You're not going to see thousands of day traders hammering this network every hour. What you do see is serious companies testing and deploying real infrastructure. Let's start with the big picture. EnergyWeb has over 100 energy companies and utilities involved in some capacity. These are not small outfits. We're talking about major players in Europe, Asia, and North America. They're using EnergyWeb tools for renewable tracking, carbon verification, and grid coordination. One of the earliest and most visible examples is Engie's The Energy Origin platform, which migrated onto the EnergyWeb chain to track renewable power for corporate buyers. It lets companies prove where their electricity came from in a way that regulators and auditors can verify. Another example is the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Registry built on EnergyWebX. Airlines and producers use it to track and verify sustainable fuel credits. It's one of the first real-world registries of its kind running on blockchain infrastructure. Then you have the Auto Green Charge application that pairs electric vehicle charging sessions with renewable output in real time. If a driver wants their charge to be provably green, the system matches it with verified clean power using Energy Web technology. One of the newer and more talked about cases is their Green Proofs program for Bitcoin miners. It allows miners to verify cryptographically that they're using renewable energy. With all the criticism around Bitcoin's environmental impact, that kind of transparency matters, and more miners are exploring it because it opens doors to better financing, better partnerships, and sometimes better energy rates. On the infrastructure side, Energy Web X has already pushed over 10 million transactions in a quarter. That's not enormous by crypto standards, but it's meaningful when you remember this isn't a meme chain. These are real companies logging real data that actually matters. The key thing to understand is this: Energy Web's adoption is slow, steady, and practical. It's not flashy. It doesn't produce hype cycles every 2 weeks. But it is being used by companies that have massive long-term needs for verification and compliance. Once those systems get baked in, they don't rip them out easily. So is the network in the hands of real users? Yes. The volume is smaller, but the stakes are higher. These aren't retail traders flipping JPEGs. These are utilities, airlines, EV networks, and energy producers verifying transactions that regulators and auditors will look at. This isn't casino traffic. It's commercial traffic. And that's the entire point of the build. Now let's talk about the part nobody likes to hear, but everybody needs to understand. The obstacles. Every project has them, even the good ones. And if you don't know where the weak points are, you're not doing a real teardown. Energy Web isn't a scam. It's not a rug. It's not a hype-driven meme coin. But it does have some real challenges, and we need to look at them honestly. The first obstacle is speed. Not blockchain speed, but enterprise speed. Utilities, regulators, and large energy companies move slowly. These are organizations that sometimes take a year just to approve a pilot program. Even when the tech is ready, deployment runs at a crawl. So anyone expecting fast adoption or sudden surges of on-chain activity is going to be disappointed. This is a long-haul build, not a short-term catalyst. Second, you have the token versus adoption issue. Companies using Energy Web's tools don't always need to touch the token directly. Some run everything through service providers who abstract away the blockchain layer. That means the network can grow, but token demand might not grow at the same pace. It's one of the biggest question marks in the story. Third, there's competition. Energy Web had a head start, but now you've got other chains, climate tech startups, and big cloud companies all entering the clean energy verification space. Some companies will choose private databases. Some will go with hybrid solutions. Not everyone will choose blockchain, and not everyone who chooses blockchain will choose Energy Web. It's a crowded lane forming fast. Fourth, the narrative risk is real. EWT sits in a strange middle ground. It's too institutional for the degen crowd, and it's too crypto for some traditional utilities. It's not easy to market. It doesn't pump on memes. It doesn't create weekly headlines. When a project lives between two worlds, it sometimes gets overlooked by both. And finally, you have the adoption gap. Energy Web has real pilots, real partners, and real infrastructure, but the usage is still light compared to the size of the energy sector. They need 1 or 2 major nationwide deployments to prove this is the industry standard, not just an interesting option. The good news is this: Energy Web has no major scandals, no founder drama, and no technical disasters. It's a clean shop. The risks here are not about the project blowing up. The risks are about the market not fully recognizing or adopting what they're building. This is a project with a real mission and real engineering behind it. But the gap between good tech and mass adoption is wide, and Energy Web still has to cross it. Every project has a sound. Some scream, some whine, some barely hum. Energy Web is the quiet one, and that tells you exactly who shows up. No hype armies, no meme frenzies, no laser eye stampedes. Instead, you get engineers energy pros, sustainability people, and long horizon builders who actually understand that real infrastructure moves on regulator time, not crypto Twitter time. Social mentions? Low. Sentiment? Mostly positive when someone takes the time to dig in, neutral when they don't. But here's what stands out. The place is professional. Clean communication, no drama, no influencer meltdowns, no rug whispers. The downside? Quiet communities don't pump charts. EWT doesn't rip because of noise. It moves when fundamentals shift or the broader market carries it. So the exhaust note is simple, calm, focused, mature, not loud, not viral, just steady, and perfect for an infrastructure build. Timing matters. A great build in the wrong cycle stalls out. EWT lives in a set of slow burn megatrends, clean energy, real world assets, digital identity, industrial blockchain. These aren't hype loops. They're structural shifts, the kind that start quiet and end mandatory. Governments want verifiable renewable energy. Companies want auditable carbon data. The grid wants identity for millions of devices. And every few years, crypto swings back to real companies using real chains. Energy Web already built for all of that, long before it was cool. The catch? None of these narratives explode overnight. They build pressure slowly, then snap all at once. If that snap happens, EWT doesn't need the pivot. It's already sitting in the right lane. This isn't a hype cycle token. It's a structural trend token. And sometimes that's exactly where you want to be. Timing matters. A great build in the wrong cycle stalls out. EWT lives in a set of slow burn megatrends, clean energy, real world assets, digital identity, industrial blockchain. These aren't hype loops. They're structural shifts, the kind that start quiet and end mandatory. Governments want verifiable renewable energy. Companies want auditable carbon data. The grid wants identity for millions of devices. And every few years, crypto swings back to real companies using real chains. Energy Web already built for all of that, long before it was cool. The catch? None of these narratives explode overnight. They build pressure slowly, then snap all at once. If that snap happens, EWT doesn't need to pivot. It's already sitting in the right lane. This isn't a hype cycle token. It's a structural trend token. And sometimes that's exactly where you want to be. All right, gang, Lulu just strutted into the garage with her snout on the charts. So let's break down the 20 trillion scenario the right way. This isn't financial advice. This is the roadmap so you can think like a builder, not a tourist. Here's the setup. Crypto is around 3.05 trillion. Energy Web sits near a 19.5 million market cap at about 64 cents. Those are the markers. Lulu splits the future into 3 lanes. Lane 1, baseline market expansion. Crypto grows from 3 to 20 trillion, and EWT simply holds its current tiny slice of the market. No boost, no drop, just holding position. In that world, the token lands around $4 to $5. Steady, predictable growth with no narrative shift. Lane 2, small growth, slight dominance increase. Now we inch the numbers forward. Not a moonshot, not a miracle, just a small, reasonable increase in market share. A few more utilities come online, a few more corporates plug in, and the token stays closer to the value flow than the market priced in. In that lane, you're looking at $5 to $7, just a mild dominance bump, nothing wild. Lane 3, full moonshot, everything lines up. This is where the moons line up. A national grid adopts the stack. Corporations make verifiable renewables mandatory. Carbon markets move on to blockchain and need real infrastructure. Energy Web is already standing in the right spot. In that lane, the token doesn't just climb, it re-rates entirely. Now you're talking 6, 10, maybe low double-digit territory depending on the catalyst size. That's the upside. But in the garage, we never just give you the good lanes. We show you the other side of the road too, the black swan, the everything works except the token scenario. This is where the technology succeeds, but the token gets pushed into the background. Enterprises use the stack but hide EWT behind service providers. Competitors land the headlines first. Regulations slow rollouts. The energy sector moves too slowly and adoption stays stuck in pilot mode. The engine runs, but the value capture slips. In that lane, EWT still grows, but underperforms, landing maybe in that $150 to $2 range, even in a 20 trillion market. That's the full money run, the baseline, the small dominance gain, the moonshot, and the black swan. Now it's time to strap this thing to the rollers. Okay, guys, before anyone starts aping into anything, let's make something absolutely clear. None of this is financial advice. We're not telling you to buy, sell, flip, trade, or even think about getting clever. And the head of technical analysis in this garage is Lulu. And if you're new here, yes, she's a pig, a real one. Hooves, tail, attitude, the whole package. She reads charts and points at trend lines with her snout. That's where her job ends. The rest is on you. Now let's get this thing on the dyno. The dyno is where we stop bench racing and actually apply pressure. No theories, no hype, just torque and truth. And when we strap EWT down and push this build to redline, here's what shows up. The fundamentals are strong. The architecture is stable. The mission is real. The adoption curve moves slower than anyone in crypto wants, but it is moving, and it's moving in the right direction. But the torque curve, the thing that actually matters, comes down to one simple question. Does the token stay welded to the value flow of the ecosystem? If verification, staking, and incentives continue to run through EWT, the horsepower is there. The pull is real. You feel the engine grab when you put your foot down. But if enterprises start hiding the token behind service layers, if the system runs but the token gets abstracted out of the process, the torque falls off. The engine keeps running, but it's no longer pushing you back in the seat. And that's the real takeaway from the dyno. The dyno doesn't predict price. It reveals how the engine behaves under real load. And EWT behaves like a serious infrastructure build that still has one big question left. Will the token remain bolted to the economics as the system scales? And that takes us straight into the final verdict. We score every project in this garage the same way. No favoritism, no narrative bias, no hype cycles. Just build quality, performance, and long-term potential. On the technology side, EWT is a 9 out of 10. This is real infrastructure solving real-world problems. No fantasies, no memes, no speculative utility. Actual systems doing actual work. On team and governance, it's another 9. Fully doxed, enterprise-grade operators, transparent structure, Swiss foundation, no chaos, no rug energy. Tokenomics land at 7.5. Fixed cap, predictable release, solid design. The only question is how tightly the token stays connected to enterprise adoption. And that's the hinge point. Adoption scores a 7. Meaningful, but slow. This is an industry where paperwork moves faster than innovation. But the work being done is real. Narrative fit is an 8. Clean energy, real-world verification, digital identity, industrial blockchain. These are not hype narratives. They are long-term structural trends. Community scores a 6.5. Quiet, professional, focused, not a hype army, but not a liability either. And when we average the full build, EWT lands at an 8 out of 10. In garage terms, that makes EnergyWeb a tuned infrastructure build. Not a lottery ticket, not a meme rocket. A serious machine designed for the long haul. This project doesn't need hype to exist. It will be here next cycle and the cycle after that, whether the market pays attention or not. The only real question is whether the token stays welded to the value flow as adoption scales. If it does, EWT earns a spot in the wallet of anyone who believes in the future of verifiable energy. If it doesn't, the ecosystem will still succeed, but the token may stay in the shadows. And that's the teardown. That's the build. And that's the score. Let's move on to the next one. Let it rip.